but you're also trying to enslave others with your ideals. Some arguments in the Prohibition era was that slavery is liberating because you don't have to make choices.
How did that make you feel watching this video?
Sad, of course.
Thank you for watching it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think the animals in the video feel?
I mean, obviously, like, it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible practice.
What do you think we can do as individuals to help them and stop this?
Well, I actually only eat produce from farms that I can find online, and I can actually see overhead aerials of where the animals are being kept and that are being kept in free-range areas.
So you seem to care about this.
Yeah, my family only eats animals that are organic and free-range.
So what would you call someone who is against animal exploitation?
Kind?
Can you find a name for it?
I guess not really.
It's okay. So basically, like, we're vegans. A lot of people think it's just a diet, but really it's the stance against all non-human animal use and exploitation and slavery, you know, all that. But in the video, she talks about like these humane practices. We're talking about whether we want to have a slave that's better treated or no slave. You know, what would prevent you from going vegan and basically rejecting the notion that other animals are here to serve you?
I have a question about that. So it's about the animals, yeah? What about the environmental consequences of veganism?
Oh, veganism? What do you mean?
Well, producing soy protein actually has over 3 times the negative environmental impact as cow farming does. So what do you think about that, as opposed to, like, it solves one problem, but it also issues in another?
I understand the concern. So really that concern is interesting because most of the soy that's actually grown is fed to cattle. I mean, cow slaves. So really, like, if you were to go fully plant-based, it would be so much better for the environment. Also because we would have less cropland needed to be used because we wouldn't need to feed it to the animals, you know, that we would then eat, you know.
So you think overall it would have, like, a positive impact?
It's actually one of the best things you can do for the environment, which is so empowering to discover when, you know, I mean, it's talked about, but not extremely. This is a great benefit, of course, for everybody, but it's important, you know, to remember that it's a justice movement for the animal victims because they have no one really speaking up for them.
Yeah. And then what are your thoughts on things like, some people keep, like, chickens as pets, and those chickens just, like, happen to lay eggs because they're chickens, or, like, things like that. What are your thoughts on, like, use of animal produce that's farmed in that manner?
That's a very good question. Veganism is not using other animals as resources, so that falls into that thing. These chickens are not free to go, right? They're not free to go in the world, like they are really kept prisoner in that sense, even if they're well treated. So that's why really we're talking about, like, it's not about the treatment. So what I would want is for us to not breed them into existence.
Yeah. And then does that expand to you to, like, other domesticated animals as well, such as horses, cats, and dogs?
Okay, so when it comes to, like, the animals that we breed into existence, it's kind of an easy problem to solve, right? We don't do that, right? But when it comes to, like, cats and dogs, it's kind of a harder question because it's like
they've bred to be domesticated, like, over time.
Dependent on us. If we have most people agreeing that it's wrong to use another animal's body and to enslave them, I think we could figure out a way to kind of phase them out so that they wouldn't be dependent on us and would be other species. You know?
And then what are your thoughts on, like, some people, like, natives, like, gather feathers that have fallen from birds to make, like, headdresses and such?
That's really good questions. Okay, this is still using them as a resource, you know? This is how the feather industry began. People were like, oh, this is pretty, I want to use that, right? Really, like, what you see is the prospects for these animal individuals is that they're going to be used in the future. Okay. So that's why
more like the future ramifications of what could happen if that, like, the mind track that might start that process.
It's that and the fact that you don't want to see them as resources or things for you to use because this is the root of the issue, you know? So that's why we would just like let's not, you know?
So would you say it's more about mindset?
Yes, exactly. It's a principle, but, like, the practices that flow from this principle are obviously very important.
Sorry, I'm just asking you the questions because I'm genuinely curious.
No, I know, I can tell. It's very cool.
So, like, what if the thought process is, like, that, like, these feathers that these animals have, like, dropped is, like, a gift to us that they have given, like, and they have given beauty to this world?
Well, that would work, right? If they actually could give consent, if they actually could do that, right? If it was a person giving you their hair, like people do, like, there's no problem.
It'd be like they had a choice in that action. Yeah. Okay.
It's like children. Like, small children cannot consent necessarily to something. Okay. And so this is like how, like, they cannot communicate. I mean, like, other animals are more intelligent than we think most of the time, but even like if they have this intelligence and this ability to conceptualize, they cannot necessarily communicate in a clear way. And so I would just not go there at all.
Okay. I think that's a fascinating point. Yeah. So what you're saying is if an animal could consent, that would be okay then.
If they could, I mean, they can consent, but they can't communicate clearly, and sometimes they don't even understand what they would be consenting to.
So it depends on, like, because in that form, like, if a, say, cat was to bring you its toy, it is giving you its toy, but it's also, like, maybe, like, that's our interpretation of that, and we don't understand, like, the full facets of what that could actually mean.
Sure, but I guess, like, in that sense, it is quite obvious, I guess, that they're all giving us the thing, but, like, we're talking, like, about their bodies, you know, and so that's a... And also, like, when it comes to when you're talking about, like, the life of a hen, for example, they have been bred, you know, to overproduce eggs, and so they lose a lot of nutrients that they need, and they break their bones and stuff like that. So what they'll do in sanctuaries often is that they will give them some type of medication for the eggs to come less often. And when they do come, they will feed it back to them, because that way they can replenish it when they're not, like, fertilized, you know.
And then what are your thoughts on, like, sanctuaries and such that, like, maybe don't use the animals, but the animals still are, like, in an enclosed area, but maybe, like, more for, like, their own good, even if they don't understand that?
Totally. That's a very good question as well. So basically, that's my view is the same kind of as, like, the pets we have. It's like these are rescued individuals that are, like, were in a nightmare right situation. So in the process of creating a vegan world, this is going to be imperfect, right? That was caused by the exploitation. But yeah, I don't have any problem with sanctuaries when they don't, like, use the animals for money that doesn't benefit them, you know, kind of. Yeah, so that's imperfect, but the goal is to phase that out, obviously, you know. If you were the one that was being enslaved and used, like, how long would you want me to wait before freeing you?
I guess, to me, it also depends on living conditions. But, like, I don't know, I could go a few years.
If you were caged by someone and you were taken hostage by someone, would you prefer to be freed now or in a few years?
I mean, they're serving Michelin star food. I'm not complaining here. Like, if they're, depending on my conditions, like, I could see some people taking that up that deal.
But if it's against your will, because you cannot choose, you're taken hostage. And they're using their bodies for their benefit.
I don't know, I'm kind of bored. I'd try it for, like, a month.
All right, like, if you're saying, like, human trafficking is okay, no, because, you know, like...
No, I'm not.
Exactly, but that's kind of, like, the ramifications of saying that, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean...
That would be consensual.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I mean, like, they can't consent, as you've said, so, like, yeah.
Right, so what you're gonna do after this conversation?
Go buy chicken pot pie.
Is it funny or is it not funny?
No, it's not funny. I just really like meat.
Well, okay, I really like to rape other people.
Different.
What about it? It's different.
Just as they can't give consent, they also can't give lack of consent.
But that's not consent. A child can't give consent, but, you know, doing something to them sexually is not okay.
Just I have a different point of view, I suppose.
But what about the victim's point of view?
Well, they can't communicate with us, so we don't actually know their point of view either.
Well, they are mammal and they need freedom just like us mammals too, right? Like, we are mammals as well. They have a need to do their own thing, you know what I mean?
But one could say that we are also trapped. Like, we're trapped by, like, our jobs. Like, we have to, like, we're enslaved by, like, the entire system, one could say also. So it's...
Yeah, but it's like saying human trafficking is okay, or, like, imprisoning someone that hasn't done anything wrong is okay because we are all trapped. You know, that's kind of like the same logic.
Oh, one step at a time.
But why not just go vegan right now?
I'm not interested.
Why?
In my personal belief, there is a way that we can treat animals with kindness and still have use of them.
So, you know, in times of chattel slavery, which is like basically the slavery in the US, there were abolitionists and there were welfarists. The welfarists thought that it was okay to continue slavery if we treated the slaves pleasantly and they didn't suffer too much. You know, what do you think about that?
I don't think it's correct, but I also think it is an entirely different issue.
What about it makes it different?
Well, we don't actually have any evidence that they are sentient.
We do. It's very well established scientifically, yeah. When your cat
implies a understanding of the passage of time as well as the acknowledgement of the future and planning for it.
we have plenty of evidence that all these animals, like fish, like all mammals, like all animals basically, have sentience.
I don't know. I think it's fine that that is how you think. And I also think that how I think is okay.
But that's how the slave owners thought back then. That it was okay to enslave someone if we treated them well. Because they didn't care about them. But it's not about us, it's about the victims.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, I think you bring up interesting points. However, I do think that, like, it's also everyone's individual choice.
It's also everybody's choice to murder someone or enslave them, you know?
But you're also trying to enslave others with your ideals.
No, I'm trying to liberate others by asking you to not enslave
say
someone.
that slavery is liberating. Some arguments in the Prohibition era was that slavery is liberating because you don't have to make choices.
Are you believing in that?
No, but I'm saying that is like what you are parroting back to me, in a sense.
I'm saying all slavery is wrong. You're saying slavery that is kind is okay. And I wasn't always vegan. I understand where you're coming from, you know? But the thing is, we don't have to do that to them, you know?
I don't know, I just think there's different...
But what is it, like, if we're both sentient, which we are, you know, what is the argument for, like, doing this to them? Is it just selfishness?
Yep.
What if it was you and that was what your oppressor said to you? I'm still going to do that to you because I don't care. Is this an argument that's actually good?
No, I just think that human nature is that humans are selfish.
So that would mean that we can enslave other people then because we are selfish. Would you say that's okay?
I didn't say it was okay, but I mean, practically speaking, slavery is still a thing because humans are selfish by nature.
Yeah, but we are trying to end that, aren't we? Isn't that something that should end? There's been, like, improvements, right?
There's been improvements. I think veganism is a wonderful ideal.
Why? Because we can practice it. We are doing it. Why won't you? Like, is it selfishness? Is not a good enough reason. Anyways, I'm going to give you a card. I appreciate you taking the time. Please think of your victims.
Thank you.
If you'd like to support my activism, consider becoming a Buy Me a Coffee member.